Greetings, sir. We are Kapwa Dangal ng Bayan. Our group consists of
Maria Nicole R. Arevalo,
Catherine Bello,
Carl Angelo Conciso,
Christian M. Ignacio,
Alsen de Kapitbahay,
Alena Princess Di Malabana,
Oliver Emmanuel C. Quiroz,
Reverend Joy R. Salasiban.
Lawrence Andrew B. Santos,
and Lorenzo M. Tagalog Jr.
We are assigned to design a simple multi-form Java Swing application that will demonstrate a library management with inventory system. First, here is our sample output for Java Swing application library management with inventory system.
Now let's start with the source code. Running the program will show the login pane for both admins and borrowers. For demonstration purposes, we created dummy accounts for admin and borrower. The credentials for admin are admin for username and admin for password. On the other hand, the credentials for borrower are borrower for username and borrower for password, respectively. So when the user clicks the login button, we use action listeners that contain for loops and if statements to check if the entered credentials exist on the list of users, then check if it is an admin or borrower. Else, it will print a message dialog that states login failed. Now, if the admin tries to log in, their credentials are applicable, they will be directed to the admin's mainframe, and else they will be directed to the borrower's frame or the borrower's mainframe. So once the user has successfully logged in, the program will check which row in the admin or student table is currently logged in to pinpoint which row should be updated if they wish to change their credentials.
In our mainframe for admin, we've declared and instantiated all the child frames and other components that are needed for the program. We have different menus named Account, Management, Inventory, Transactions, and View Reports respectively. Under the Account J menu, there are two menu items placed named Logout and Exit. The Logout menu logs out the current logged-in user and will be redirected to the login frame, while the Exit menu exits the user out of the program. For the Management J menu, it contains three J menus which are Student menu, Book Category menu, and Book Information menu. Each J menu contains three menu items which are Add, Update, and Delete, which is used for adding, updating, and deleting specific information. In the Student J menu, the admin can add the user's first name, middle name, last name, gender, login credentials, college, and course using the getData method, then choose its account type, whether an admin or borrower. The admin can also update the student's information by using the displayData method to display the user's information the admin wants to update. Then use the updateData method to set the updated information onto the table. The admin can delete the student's information by requiring them to enter their student ID number in an input dialog box.
For the book category J menu, the admin can add a book category by entering a specified category in a J frame which consists of a text field and a J button for adding the entered category in the J list. It consists of two methods but that specifically adds the row in the book information. The syntax also uses the split method to split the text in every space of the book title. The admin can also update and delete a category by selecting a row, and an error message will be shown if there is no selected row.
Next is the Inventory J menu, where the admin can view all copies of books in a J table under a new frame. All copies have status of either available, damaged, or borrowed. They can also add stocks of a specified book by clicking the Add Stock button, which will show a dialog frame that consists of combo box and J spinner. Using the Add Title method, the book title will be added inside the J table. The combo box contains the available book titles from the J table, while the J spinner assigns the quantity of copies. The copies will then be added by the Add Stock method in the ID header of the JTable that has a format of information ID, initials of the book title, and specific book quantity or copies respectively. The fourth menu is the Transaction J menu, where admin can approve all pending transactions from borrowers in a JTable under a new JFrame. The JFrame consists of a JTable where all transactions will be recorded and viewed including the current date and return date of a book. A J button is also placed for processing the pending transactions.
The admin will first need to select a row of a pending transaction before actually processing the transaction. When the admin clicks the Process button, the Display Data method will display the user's information and transaction. We use a Process Borrow method to change the current status of borrow transaction to approved, and it will display the current date when it is processed. After that, we call it inside the action listener of JButton OK, so that if the button is clicked, the method will be executed. In the return transaction, the checkbox and date user will be visible, as this is where the admin can set the date of the book that is returned and to check if the borrowed book is damaged. However, the J-calendar will not be visible when a borrower is only borrowing books, and will only show if he or she is returning a book.
The last menu is the View Reports J menu. Generally, this is where the admin can view the transaction that has been done in the application by the borrower. Upon clicking the J menu object, 4 J menu items will be shown, which are View Book Status, View Borrower Transaction, View Transactions, and View Penalties Report respectively. The first J menu item, upon clicking, a new J frame entitled View Book Status will be shown. Inside the frame has 2 J tab panes, which were Available Books and Damaged Books. Each J tab pane has a J table that displays the list of the available books through the use of Display Available Books method and their status, whether it is damaged, through the use of Display Damage method respectively.
Next is the second J menu item that will open a new JFrame titled View Borrower Transactions upon clicking. It will also run the method Display Borrower Info open close parenthesis, which is the transparency of the borrower's information that will be displayed in a JTable. In this frame, the user needs to select first a specific row in the JTable before executing the Display Borrower Transaction Info open close parenthesis method that is placed in the View Transactions button to show the transaction list. The JTable has a mouse listener for detecting the selected row that the admin wants to view. Following that is the third J menu item that will open a new JFrame titled View Transactions upon clicking. In this frame, there are 2 J-tab pane, which are Borrower Transaction and Return Transactions. Each J-tab pane displays the list of the transaction through the method Display Borrow Trans open close parenthesis, which display the borrowing transaction list of the users or borrowers in the JTable object in the Borrower Transactions JTab pane, and Display Return Trans open close parenthesis, which display the return transaction list of the users or borrowers in JTable object in the Return Transaction JTab pane.
Lastly is the fourth J menu item that shows a new J frame entitled View Penalties Report. When clicked, the frame has a J table that displays the list of students that have received a penalty and the amount of their penalty through the penalty formula method that continues the logical statements that says that the book must be returned 2 days after the borrowed date. If the borrower returned the book more than 2 days prior, the borrower then must pay 10 pesos per succeeding day. The J-frame has 3 J-tab panes, which includes the Student Formation tab pane, Book Category J-tab pane, and Book Information J-tab pane. In the first tab pane, the admin will be able to see the latest borrower in a JTable object that displays the student's information and credentials. The second tab pane displays the list of book categories that are available to be borrowed in a JTable object. The last tab pane displays the book information through a JTable that has column headers named ID, title, author, and category, which all pertains to the details of the book that has been borrowed.
On the main frame for borrowers, there are only three menus, which are the Update Credentials, Log Out, and Exit menu. The Update Credential menu is used to update the user's username and password. The Login menu logs out the user that is currently logged in, and the Exit menu closes the program entirely. In addition, 3 J buttons are displayed inside the borrower frame named View Available Books, View Transactions, and View Borrowed Books button. First one is the View Available Books J button, which is used to view all of the available books in the library through a new J frame entitled View Available Books. To make all this happen, we added an action listener in the J button that will run the Display Books method. Inside this method is a for loop that states a condition that as long as there is a stock of books, the loop will proceed to an if condition that will check if the stocks of books is available, and if the condition is true, it will display the information of the book in the J table. Also, it has a text field that filters every book depending on the inputted name, word, character, and symbol.
There is also a borrow J button that runs a borrow book method that has a for loop that runs as long as there is a transaction. Under the loop is an if condition that prevents the user and other users from borrowing the same book that has been pre-ordered by the user. An if condition is also included that checks the entire transaction list of the borrower to see if they have already 3 pending transactions. If they have 3 pending transactions, the application will then run an error message: you already have a maximum number of transactions. Secondly, View Transactions J button is used to view all of the borrower's book transactions, which needs to be approved by the admin in the admin system. When the borrower clicks the View Transaction button, the Display Transaction method will execute inside the action performed and will display the user transactions, allowing the user to monitor all of their transactions.
Finally, the View Borrowed Books J button is used to view all of borrowers' borrowed books that have been approved by the admin in a new J frame entitled View Borrowed Books. By the use of Display Process Transaction method, the application can display to the borrower the books that they have been borrowed. The method used in this J button object contains a for loop that will run as long as there is a transaction, whether it is pending or approved. Following the for loop is an if condition that checks whether the transaction is pending and has no return date yet. That signifies that the user still has the book, and then will proceed to display the borrowed book's information in a JTable object.
To sum it all up, in restricting the user to borrow more than 3 books, we are counting the rows of the currently borrowed books of the user using the getRowCount method of the JTable. Then the method is also used in restricting borrowing while having more than 3 pending transactions. In returning the books, we are also calculating the penalty if the user returns the book after 2 days. To calculate the penalty, we use the class of chronoUnit to get the period of days between the current date and the selected date in the JCalendar provided. Multiplying the period of days minus 2 to 10 to calculate the penalty, then adding it to the last value of the user's penalty in the table in the ViewPenaltyReport class to display the overall penalty of the user.
Inside the frame run by the View Borrowed Books J button, another button was present which name is Return J button, which runs the return book method that enables the user to start a transaction that returns the book that the borrower has selected in the J table, and it displays the list of borrowed books. What it really does is that it will get the full name of the borrower and append it in the transaction list along with the status of return, signifying for returning the book and a blank column for date, since it still needs the approval and the schedule provided by the admin. And that concludes our library management with inventory system discussion and computer programming 2.
We are Kapwa Dangal ng Bayan. Thank you for watching.